the first panel discussion of today starts, which is the which should be belaboring on the topic of AI and analytics. On there are two distinct parts on consumer insight and customer experience management. We have professors, so there will be certain scholarly treatises on that subject also. We also have practitioners like PwC and Achievex, and we have two professors from ISI and IIM Ahmedabad. So we will really try to see that how a blending between what's coming from the research in this area and what the practitioners are now taking to the corporates. Now, these definitely, whenever people are actually discussing the applications of analytics and AI, this retail business, the B2C, the consumer insights, how immersive the experience of a customer is, whether they are doing the shopping through the online or coming to the store. So this definitely is the subject which is very much discussed, practiced, and I think the applicability of analytics is mostly and most profound in these areas than any other streams or industries. Now, I will not really start giving any intro to that subject because I'm sure the students here and the professors, they already have certain backgrounds to the context. So let me start therefore with Professor Pal. Professor Pal will present his views on this.
Even all the industries have their own definition of artificial intelligence. Own definition means most probably in the area they are focusing, their definition will have some bias on it. You go for Amazon, Google, IBM, Deloitte, anyone, you'll see they will have some definitions, but all the definitions will say that a machine or a computer trying to behave, think, or act like human being. My favorite definition is written here. This is most probably the second oldest definition. And he was trying to go little beyond human thing. Maybe in future we can get his definition perfect. Now, AI, to me, it's the main machine learning, that's the main core technology which is there. So, why machine learning, or how does it differ from other computer programming? Because machine learning most probably to some extent is a part of computer science. In traditional software, those who are aware of know that we have some problem. We try to solve this problem through, in most cases, if-then type of things, and we get some result. So that's the traditional way. So we write some code which will process some data and give us a result. And therefore it's deduction in nature. Machine learning is induction in nature. So it will try to build a program or a model to solve set of problems or give answer to set of questions. Now, means whenever I have interacted with many people regarding machine learning or AI for different projects, their idea is this model is more or less a black box type of thing. So once we have a model, we can fit any data and get the required output. Machine learning is induction in nature. So it will try to build a program or a model to solve set of problems or give answer to set of questions. So people think it's magic. You have a box, you put any questions, it is going to give answer. Questions in any font. Unfortunately, it is not like that. There is a lot of hard work, a lot of research behind it. And most crucial, there is a lot of labeling of data to get such nice results. Data is an important thing. Everyone has data. Now, in many cases, they say, I have data, but not in a soft form. Then they'll say, okay, you scan it, it will be in a soft form. But there is a difference of data getting in a soft form. Ideally, it's listed here. All classes are equally represented. All sub-concepts, that too, equally represented. All classes have similar class conditional distribution. The values of all features are defined for all the members of the data set. The values of all features are known for all the data instances in the data set. That's a very ideal condition, we never get it. So that's why life gets hard. So there are a lot of irregularities in data. It may be distribution based, it may be feature based, there may be missing feature or absent feature. For distribution based, class imbalance, small injunct or class queues are there. So until unless we solve this problem, it will be very difficult to get good results or to implement AI. Generally, we talk about black box AI, and that's somewhere now a lot of questions are coming. So the trend is we have a training set of data and a learning algorithm. Based on this training set of data, this learning algorithm will design a model or a function, and then we will get some value or some questions, and this model will give us a output. Based on this training set of data, this learning algorithm will design a model or a function, and then we will get some value or some questions, and this model will give us a output. Now, why this much high or this much low? That this algorithm cannot say. Maybe it gives the best result, but the user may have these questions: whether there is an error in calculation, how much can I trust, and in most cases, if somebody buys, always thinks, why so expensive? Buying a house, these questions will be there. If it is a medical diagnosis, some different questions will be there. Generally, our AI based analytic model doesn't directly answer these things because there are complicated things, heuristics, difficult to answer. Well, we have training set of data, new learning process. It's not similar like old. This gives an explainable model, and they will be able to explain the output that you simply used to produce. For example, why, or they will try to justify it. So explainable AI concept is coming up. Previously or even today, it's the old model. They'll give a result and a lot of questions will be raised, and for the non-expert, it will be very difficult to understand why this particular result. So in the explainable model, the model itself will try to justify or answer why this answer is like that to a non-expert of that particular subject. So if you use that model, things might be a little bit different, so that human intervention can be there to take decision based on this explainable model. Suppose a model gives, okay, if I wear black today, my day will be good. Even if it is not good, there is less risk. But if it is a medical diagnostic or criminal related things, fortunately, I have just seen that India has started such thing, that National AI Portal of India, in a very nascent stage. These are some points. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pal. That was a very good discussion on the application of intelligence, and prior to that, that how data will be considered From Professor, let me now go to to a professional consultant, PwC, Proshun, who can give his thoughts on this subject. And I know Proshun is an expert on the data side, so he has done a lot of work in the data. So before the AI and analytics, data definitely plays a very big role. So I'm sure in his talks he will be also touching the subject of data as well.
First of all, I convey my thanks for inviting me here. I see a lot of students eagerly listening. I'm hoping that they will have a lot of takeaway out of this 2 days of session that that NHSM and others have planned. Um, very, very appropriate topic for these days. Uh, we know that this word, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, digital, a lot of these words, some people think that it is more of a hype, some people think that it is a lot of use, but this kind of debate and deliberation obviously helps the new generation as well as the practitioners to come up with the right set of views. There is no doubt that data is the foundation of today and tomorrow. Uh, Over the past few years and a decade, and with the advent of a lot of technologies, devices, we have been able to gather a lot of data. And we all believe that with a lot of data, we have got some, I would say, invincible power that we can make use of that, and as Professor Paul was trying to say, that we will, wave our wand and some magic will happen, but the reality is very, very different. The reason why I would say so is because, and I'll try to put the context of our deliberation here, which is the consumer insights and customer experience. Both cases, the availability of data is not a challenge. Every day, every now and then, we are browsing through our mobile apps. Every click that we are doing over there in a e-commerce site or any website or any applications where we are trying to buy things, we are actually leaving a lot of digital footprints, which means that we are leaving a lot of data to be analyzed and to be made use of. So hence, data is a foundation and data availability is not a challenge. What is the challenge then? The challenge remains that this data is very big, but at the same time it is very scattered, which means in order to make use of this data, it is very, very important that this data is processed in using different methods and techniques, so that the scattered data can be first collated, can be harmonized to make use, to understand the data. Some people say labeling of the data is very, very important. And because I'm trying to deal with a lot of customer data, and I'm just keeping myself to the context of today, on consumer insights and customer, it is a lot of customer data that we are having in different places, websites, apps, uh, social media, in the corporate systems, in the transactions that we are doing, in the POS, in the stores that we are doing, etc., etc. We know that this word, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, digital, a lot of these words, some people think that it is more of a hype, some people think that it is a lot of use, but this kind of debate and deliberation obviously helps the new generation as well as the practitioners to come up with the right set of views. The methodology that generally people use is to try and create a different data set called model ready data. We are also seeing something called lake house, because people have understand that it is, if in literal meaning, if it is a lake, then I'm going to go and dump everything into the lake. That is not going to help us to consume the data. Hence, I need to have a hybrid approach, which is like I will dump the data, but then I will do something to create another layer which we will call as model ready, which will be more structured. So in the morning, Mr. Dasgupta said that we need to have, we started off with structured data, then we have a lot of unstructured data, but we need to give a structure to those unstructured data, and which is what this MRD layer talks about, which is just to give a structure to that unstructured data. A lot of times we tend to feel as an engineer, as a budding engineer on data, we feel that I will just use set of softwares and tools on the available data and it will churn out something. It is not. It is extremely important for these budding engineers to understand the data and hence become a specialist in that domain, which is called data domain. If you don't understand what that data is, it is very difficult to actually make use of it and do these imputations or adjustments. So it is very important step. Now, once that is done, then comes all the intelligence and insights that can come out of it. Consumer insights, I will start with consumer insights because customer experience is a different ballgame. Consumer insights are more back-end and customer experience is more hand-to-hand with the customers or the consumers. Call it as primary, which means the corporate has a view of your data as a consumer data, and they make use of that consumer insights by taking in the transactions that were done through the corporate, which is the primary data, and then all the other social media data and other external data that are possible. There are companies which also sells consumer data like a Nielsen, and they make use of it. That is the first category. The second category is the dealers, which is the middleman between the producers and the end consumers, which is the secondary layer, and that is the second stage. They do a different kind of insights generation. And the third is the absolute end consumers. Sometimes if it is a traditional trade, it becomes a tertiary sales. If it is a modern trade, it becomes the online users. If it is a hybrid, because today we are talking about omni-channel presence. What I see in Amazon, I need to see there and there in a brick and mortar store. And hence some of the technologies like an augmented reality is coming to the fore. Today I'm just giving an example. If you try to buy an iPad today, Apple gives you a feeling with augmented reality as if the iPad is there in front of your table, right? That's nothing but it gives you a feeling that how the iPad actually will look like onto your table without being in it. So this is just an example, but there are many more examples in the customer experience where augmented reality is playing a very important part. It plays a havoc in the fashion. There are mirrors where you can just stand and you can pick your clothes. It will actually tell you how it's going to look like on you. So that kind of technology is definitely helping consumer experience or customer experiences.
Very well said, Prashun. We'll come back to you with more questions, but just one question I cannot resist asking now is that suppose in this entire consumer universe, where me as an individual is just maybe one particle, one atom there. Now, all data that you are collecting, all models that you are deploying, all infrastructure computing power that you are deploying, his ultimate objective is to know me well. This particular atom, how does it behave, what does he buy, what does he like, and what. Now, I would just like to understand that the investments that you were doing in knowing me well, and therefore prompting me to buy something, so therefore the per unit, me being one unit, is that the cost that you were investing in me is the return that you were getting, is that what? Has there been any such exercise done that without those things would I have not bought it still?
I mean, very, very good question. I think that is the dilemma that corporates are dealing with today. That the reason why a lot of these systems are not enterprise grade is because they don't see the return on that investment, very, very honestly. They see the return in point solutions, okay? If I try to have a very point solution on recommending your next set of possible buys, and I have create a very pointed solution on your fashion, okay? Then I see that yes, my sales will go up by an increment, but there is no way to measure that if I would not have done that. Have you not browsed by yourself and bought all the things that you are looking for? Maybe the difference is the time that you are spending has been reduced. The feeling that you have on that using that application has gone up, but these are not very measurable in terms of the return on investment.
Okay, with this, I will now go to one more professor from Odrija. Odrija is from IIM Ahmedabad and has done a lot of work in this area.
I'm very thankful to the team for inviting me for this, panel discussion. Good afternoon to all the attendees and my heartfelt greetings to all my distinguished panel members present here. Uh, so, um, so I am currently working at Indian Institute of Management in the Department of Information Systems. And, in terms of my research, I tend to use natural language processing extensively in my works. So where I come from is I'm more from the application domain, so I'm not kind of building a better model or something. Maybe I borrow these models from computer science, discipline or economics, statistics, and use them to better business decisions. Okay, so we had some lovely, talks, which was, given by Bros. Professor Pal and Mr. Prashul Nondi. I'll just try to build upon that. And my talk will be mostly about, some of the use cases. And I'm trying to kind of link both customer insights as well as customer experience. How do we kind of, link these two? And some of my prior works are in this field as well, okay? So, as we know that, currently, as Edward Deming said, that, in God we trust, everyone else bring data. Okay, so we're living in a data-driven world, and I don't want to re-emphasize that. But as we know that data could be structured, and data is unstructured. And since I work a lot in the NLP domain, so there's some affinity towards that unstructured data. So by unstructured data, I mean, the text data, the video data, let's say images. Right now, all of you, I think, present in this room, the kind of digital footprint you're creating on different social media channels, be it, Instagram, be it your Facebook, Twitter. This is the age of reels, TikTok videos, and how can I leverage those reels or videos for better decision making? Okay, so this is where my talk is about, and I'll be mostly discussing some use cases with, how firms or how research has analyzed text data to better firm decisions. Okay, so the different variety of data that we, or different platforms from where we get the data. There are review platforms, let's say TripAdvisor, Airbnb. Before we even book a place or something, we first go and check the reviews, because these generates trust in our mind, especially for service-oriented products. We often tend to do that. So, as we know that, currently, as Edward Deming said, that, in God we trust, everyone else bring data. Okay, so we're living in a data-driven world, and I don't want to re-emphasize that. As we know that data could be structured, and data is unstructured. And since I work a lot in the NLP domain, so there's some affinity towards that unstructured data. So by unstructured data, I mean, the text data, the video data, let's say images. At the first stage itself, how do you generate customer insights, right? So, on Twitter, or let's say all of us, the moment there's something wrong happens with, let's say you have subscribed to some services, let's say you're taking a flight to some place, something didn't happen to your liking, what we do no longer call their customer care. What we do, the easy route is just to go on Twitter and post about it. Many firms do have a customer care handle. They track what you're saying there, and they reply back to you. Some firms are not doing that, and obviously they are lagging behind, because people out there, they are no longer taking the traditional route of complaining, but rather going on to these platforms. So there also you generate a lot of, let's say, text data, right? Or images data. You also have, let's say, uh, e-commerce platforms, and I just highlighted the importance of text there because, and research has showed that, from positive reviews, not only the ratings, those are the structured data, but what you actually convey in those text, there, it impacts positively sales of products and services. So there is a lot of research which has happened in the past, still people are doing to understand reviews and its impact on some firm level sales, right? So that's where, you see you're generating a lot of, this unstructured data. In fact, IDC said that, by 2025, around, I think 70% of the data in the world would be of unstructured nature. But the firms, in reality, are not leveraging it well to its advantage. Uh, uh, I'll be talking about, you'll be kind of getting to see some of these different techniques that people often use. I'll be just touching upon them and some use cases also. Not the traditional use cases, maybe, positive reviews impacting sales, but some, very unique and innovative case studies. I was also part of one of such project and how it improves customer experience, which was, typically you'll be seeing that, let's say, all the B2C companies, let's say all the airlines companies, FMCG companies, they are heavily monitoring their social media channel. But one of the unique examples that I would like to highlight is, Bombay Stock Exchange. That's the oldest stock exchange of India, and they actually use social media for its advantage in a different way altogether. What they did was they was using tracking social media for rumor detection. Okay, so people, because any news which has material information can impact stock prices, right? So what they were trying to, they had a market intelligence group which typically came in the morning, read all the newspapers, identified, whether this is a rumor or not, and then went back. And this was quite laborious, monotonous, and could be done once in the morning, right? Because that's when typically newspapers are delivered. But in today's age, you are, generating data at every second and through different platforms, social media channels. So they thought how to kind of, integrate social media in rumor detection. So they actually built a model using, they scanned all these social media handles of companies, not only companies, what users are saying, and they try to identify whether it is something, some news which is being circulated is rumor or not. So I wanted to understand how people reacted to it, right? What is the customer sentiment or insight can I generate from this? So whether people have perceived it in the right way, wrong way. Let's say if I am work with Apple and I want to understand what has been the initial reaction, how can I do it? And there are many open source tools also available these days. But there were some naysayers, some negative comments also, and typically these are about the influences that Apple has used. Let's say the influx of a lot of Bollywood celebrities with the Apple Store opening, overall sentiment, but sentiment across different topics and aspects. You bought a phone. Let's say you like the phone overall, but you are saying that the battery is bad, or let's say the camera is great. So you are having more finer understanding of customer insights. Those are doable in today's world. Beyond sentiments, you also have understanding of emotions, etc. The airline that you complain about, they are coming back and responding, hey, I'm sorry, or could you please send me your PNR, etc., to take it forward. You can identify potential threat areas at an early stage before things become out of hand and becomes viral. Companies should also kind of try to understand the net promoter scores. Who are my advocates on social media platform? I should invest with those. I should work with those influencers. They are organically coming to me sometimes maybe. And who are these detractors and what negative things are they talking about? And can I address their issues or not? So these are the typical questions companies can address and gain better customer insight. So it says that, thank you for sending my baggage to Hyderabad and flying me to Calcutta at the same time. Brilliant service. Hashtag die Indigo, okay? So nowhere I am saying Indigo is bad, but it's just an example. Indigo's response was glad to hear that. Hashtag keep flying 6E, okay? And then the person responded, are you serious? So, but if you see that, it's not only about the text, but the hashtag. So let's say if I would have been doing this analysis, I would also track the hashtags, right? So there, on social media channel, the importance of not only text, but also using it for new product development. Let's say I've launched iPhone 14, and I want to understand what are the different features people are talking about. Can I better my product in the next cycle or not? I'll give you a short example. There's a big, burger chain. They wanted to curate the menu in some part of Delhi. What they did was they scanned Twitter sphere to understand what people are talking about burgers in Delhi, that particular area, what are they complementing, and curated the menu likewise and using it to your benefit. The other part is, how do you provide better customer experience, or how do you gain more sales or revenue from creating very persuasive content on social media channels or crowdfunding platform. Or one example is, let's say, startups, they need to provide pitches, and, that kind of helps a lot of times in gaining funding subsequently. So can I create a very engaging pitch? Can I use analytics, do a large-scale study? So we need to do, we actually need to see the data, run models, and then come up with these insights. Also keep some theory in mind. One of my research was how to create engaging content for sports analytics. Like during IPL, my research saw that, if you provide cultural specific content, it creates more engagement. Provide a sad image, you provide a happy image, etc., and so on and so forth. The quality of these images, let's say if you're putting video, what are the body language people should use to get more funding? What should be the pitch quality? How do you deliver a talk? Which will instill believability or confidence in the minds of the investors. So these are some questions that you can address. I just highlighted this case study before. I just lastly a word cloud to say thank you, and yeah.
So now I will go to our last speaker, Amit. Amit actually is a mix of both an educationist, he has written books, taught in the college also, as well as he is a practitioner. So he can give a balanced view of both sides. So to Dr. Amit Dash.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Being the last member of a panel is always a big challenge for a few reasons. Number one, most of the things you were supposed to share or thought of sharing has already been shared by some of the earlier panelists, right? Two, I think already you are quite overburdened with the knowledge being shared, right? So kind of mind fatigue is already starting to set in. And three, which is the situation right now, people have started feeling hungry. So that's the other factor I'll have to consider. So with all the factors in mind, what I will do is I will try to keep the deliberations short and simple, right? So what I will do is set a quick context on customer experience management, what exactly it means, then talk a little about how AI plays or can play a role in enhancing customer experience management. And what I will talk is just going to be a small piece of the pie. There are a lot many other things which can be done. And third point is what benefit it generates and what challenges does it pose. So both the aspects of it. So first, coming to what is customer experience management as a whole. I mean, if we look at the domain. So basically, it is all the sets of tools and technologies which need to be or which are implemented to boost up the customer experience. And when I say customer experience, I mean all the different touch points. It may be the contact center, it may be the website, it may be the social networks, the way the interactions happen, so all the different touch points. Now, why do we need to do that? What is the need for doing that? So typically, when we were in the offline world, all the things, all the items, all the customers coming to the stores, the local stores, what used to happen is very simple. There used to be a lot of direct connect between the person who is managing the store and the person who has come in. So a lot of personal interactions, and that personal interaction used to give a lot of warmth in the whole relationship, right? Now that is what we try to kind of mimic or replicate in the online ecosystem. Is that what we try to do? And it has been seen from data that 80% of the customers, they select a brand based on that personal customized experience. The basic fact that I am being called as Amit and not as a customer, that gives me somewhat a little bit of more warmth, which definitely translates to more business. Now, what is the market size? Just a quick review of the market size of the customer engagement management. So experience management. So it is a huge market. At this moment, the growth in the market size of the customer experience management is expected to be 11.3 billion plus in 2022, and it's going to exceed $32 billion in 2029. So that's a average growth of 16% plus, which is a massive thing, right? Now, what does AI do in this whole business? So we will see in the subsequent slides, it helps to provide certain insights about the customer, and thus it kind of enhances the customer experience. Then on the data, we run certain analytical models. And the models, what it helps to generate certain insights. What insights? A simple insight, maybe customer preference. What kind of preferences does the customer have, right? That's a very simple insight that can be drawn from the analytical models. And ultimately what it results is in a better service, more customized service, what the preferences are. And based on that, you take certain decisions. And those decisions are reflected in the form of actionables in the customer experience management. Like say, for example, recommendation systems. Very, very simple examples, right? Next one, omni-channel messaging capability. I think Mr. Nandi already touched about that. So basically, what you do is you try to provide a uniform experience wherever customer tries to reach out. So when the customer is calling the contact center, you are being called by your name. And at the same time, when you are logging into the customer website, the same thing happens. So it's a uniform experience that is being provided across all the channels. Again, another thing is streamlined processes to give a personal experience. So again, when we do certain things, if we are able to optimize the way we are servicing our customers, it always gives a better experience, right? So that's why there are certain things which can be done. Again, today we don't have so much of time to get into the details, but at the same time, it can lead to positive customer experience just by optimizing and streamlining certain processes using AI. But there are certain pitfalls also. Although things are not as rosy as they seem to be. The first thing is, what if they go wrong? It's a very, very popular tool, which is the Compass tool. It's an AI-based tool, which is used by the US judiciary system to kind of find out the probability that a particular convict is going to be a repeat offender based on the past profile and all those things. Past history shows that they are not so, they should not be rated in that way. So obviously there is a racial bias which has happened, which has caused a problem. Okay, and just to tell you, at this time itself, there are more than 2 million convicts in the different US jails. The gender by default that the AI model identifies is female, which is definitely a clear gender bias, right?
We do not really have much time left, so I would be going to the audience. But before I go to the audience, just one question for all the panelists, and quickly they can touch upon, because sometimes I do wonder whether I'm the consumer or I'm being consumed. Because there is some, it feels like that I'm being strapped to a chair and every bit of my information is being analyzed, I'm being dissected. So with everything now out, as it Bengali poet Shankha Ghosh once said that neon holo ponno holo ja kichu aaj byaktigoto. So with everything out in the market, so how secure am I? How much I will be misused? How much I will be subject to any kind of a fraud? So in the area of security, fraud, cyber, some comments from the speakers on this environment, how secure a consumer is. I'll start with Professor Pal. Any comments on that?
What we feel is security is something, the concept of God. If you think it exists, it exists. If you don't go beyond the line, then we are secured. That means if somebody asks your OTP, if you give it, you will be never secure. If you expose your date of birth on websites, most probably you are not secured. So some information that you most probably pass to the bank should not be exposed to the social media. In that way, you may be a little bit more secure. That's it.
You feel we are subject to, as a function of my own greed and my own foolishness. Okay, Prashun?
I think I will try to answer it in two parts. One is there is definitely a apprehension in everybody's mind that how much of my information that I'm leaving as digital footprints are getting used or misused. But it has two parts as I see it. One is we are fortunate that still this technology and this platform and these systems are not so widely used that it can be heavily misused. That's only time which is going to wait for it. But the second part is, at the same time this is happening, some kind of AI policies in every country is getting framed. I can tell definitely that in India, Niti Aayog is working definitely on this, what kind of AI policies can be framed in order to, A, democratize and explain these models that they're supposed to do or what it is happening under the hood. At the same time, it is also to protect some of the rights as citizens who are contributing to these systems that they will have, and that rights can be protected. A lot of it can be, we can say that Europe is ahead of us in terms of their policies under GDPR and everything else, but still it is not towards the AI usage, which only means that a lot of these countries are actually working hand in hand in trying to frame these policies. So these policies are going to come from the government and the different bodies, institutions, industry chambers, and everybody has to contribute towards this. Uh, at the same time, it's only time that these systems are going to go more popular, going to go bigger and scalable, and then, these things will, the real risk is going to come.
Udrija?
About the privacy aspect, so privacy concerns are, slightly individualistic in nature, and there's something called privacy personalization paradox. Let's say, I don't want to, if I don't give out my information, maybe I don't get some offers or recommendations or etc. So I lose out. So there is a calculus, some benefits I get, but there is also some cons that, there is some disadvantages of giving out that information, and that differs across individuals. So, I might be very habituated with my level of information sharing. I want to give out information for social validation. I like it. But let's say for someone else, they are very, very, very restrictive of giving information. So that point I wanted to stress. And the other is, as Mr. Proshun mentioned about the policy formations, so government regulations are required in this space, especially in cybersecurity, fraud, and there's there's a need to, make people more aware, user awareness programs, etc. There's importance, lot of need for those sort of programs to make users more aware of what they should do and not do. Yes.
Yeah, I think I will answer it in a very simple way. So we belong to a very privileged community. We wear a dual hat, the hunters as well as the people hunted by. So the advantage that we have is we can understand what all things may go wrong and we can be cautious about that beforehand. So that's a big advantage that we have in us. But at the same time, the disadvantage is we start suspecting on everything that comes in the way. So, in a nutshell, what I feel is uh, at the same time, we are knowledgeable about certain things. There is also a need for building a lot of awareness in the whole customer community, which I think is not happening at the moment. And more effort needs to be put in to build customer awareness with more and more digitization.
Now we will straightway go to the audience, to the students, participants for your questions.
My question is to Prasoon sir. So sir, you mentioned that a lot of you work in consumer insights and customer experience. So there is a slight distinction in academia and industry. So in academia, a lot of focus is there on deep learning models. But as sir also mentioned that industry is always looking for explainable AI. And it's said that because of the limitation of my deep learning models, industry usually prefers the simpler models. So what's your take on this? Is India not ready for deep learning yet, or how can we tackle it? And number second is, whenever you are implementing a solution for a client, then how do you justify that whatever modeling you have done is actually going to help them, and that is how it is going to be explained. So that's all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for asking the question. First question always is a difficult one. Uh, yeah, I think the first question was around how do we make sure that the industry and academy, that difference that you have, deep learning models are very much popular, very popular in academia, while you feel that it is not so much in industry. It is not so. Actually, as I said in my speech also, in industry, we don't see production grade or enterprise grade applications of these, but we do see point solutions. And some of these point solutions are not necessarily no deep learning is used. Yes, deep learning is used, particularly uh, use cases which deals with video analytics, which deals with multi-dimensional problems, where deep learning models need to be used because it generates better output. Having said so, in industry, what has been the norm is that we tend to choose multiple models and then find out the best usage. And it may so happen that if I'm trying to have a scope which is multi-region, say multi-product category in this consumer world, then one model may not fit for all the regions and all the categories. And you need to have an ensemble of models coming in together. So it is not right to say that deep learning models are not going to work in industry while it is very popular in academia. You have a second question, which was around your, uh, your view about the same deep learning models. So I think AI models uh, will evolve, and as you, as a student, are learning it to use, you are probably using a lot of synthetic data, not the real world data. This synthetic data kind of simplifies your problem, and you tend to not encounter the bottlenecks or the challenges that you will have with the real world data. So when the real world data comes, then some of the decisions that we take in choosing those models may differ. Sometimes you might encounter more failures than success. compared to what you see in the academia.
See, we keep on hearing so many of the models which is being used, derived from statistics or from mathematics, the Bayesian model, then the non-parametric, ensemble model, explainable AI, and there are various models. And then on the learning side, we're seeing deep learning, reinforcement learning, the various things. Now, is there any easy way to choose that which model to apply on what kind of data set? How would I actually know? Or the models will automatically use the data to decide that which model they should be go for, any software to do that? How do I do that?
I would give an answer to this. If I get a model that will choose which model to to use for a particular data set, then human race might not exist, which is never true. I remember even 20 years back when I was a student, it is said that the human brain, which is a kind of a deep neural network, uh, the ability of our brain is far more than any AI machine, and the best AI machine can actually give around 10 to 15% of what we can think and what we can do. So there's a famous movie which shows us in a science fiction world that if our if a machine achieves 95% of what our brain's ability is, then the machine is supposed to explode. It is not able to handle what we can handle. The reasons are far beyond. So hence, while our dream would be to have a situation where there will be a model which will self-select the best kind of algorithm.
You have a data which you are capturing at different points in time, and you want to see what is going to happen in the future. Typically, if it is a sales data, or if it is usually something which you want to project. So we call that as a time series problem. That something has happened in the past and you want to project what is going to happen in the future. And there you can very well see that if my variability is very high, then I would rather use a model which takes the feedback. The more recent the data, the better the feedback I will get, and hence a machine learning based model becomes better. Even exponential smoothing models are also machine learning models because you're using the historical data to project what is going to happen in the future. There is a first class of problem. The second class of problem is the classification problems. Classification problems is some data which looks similar, some data which looks dissimilar. So if I'm doing segmentation of my customers, I'm trying to figure out which customers are looking similar. If I'm trying to do a fraud analysis, I'm looking at which data is very dissimilar. So it's the same problem. Now there, I would not want to bias my model with any of my understanding. I will use an unsupervised kind of a model because there could be some hidden similarities or dissimilarities which I may not know. Because if I put in my own bias, then I will only be limited by my own knowledge. Maybe my own knowledge is a good place to start, but then my end point will be what the model is telling me based on the patterns it is seeing in the data itself. A good example of that is an anomaly detection kind of an algorithm, where you may start with a set of anomalies or exceptions, but let the model discover some more anomalies in the future. The third class of problem is what I call as a cause and effect problems, causality based problem. If this has happened, that is the reason why it has happened. Most of the time we get confused with correlation and causality. So correlation is never a causality. Causality is more deeper or more difficult to identify because sometimes you may correlate two very dissimilar things and say one is the reason for the other, and that's not the case. So there you need to then use decision tree and other kind of tools which allows you to figure out what is the cause and what is the effect, and there are different models of that. Most of the business problems which we see today will be one of these three types or a combination of that, and that will determine what kind of models we'll use in the future.
Thank you, Shudipto. For the information of everyone, the gentleman who explained it so well is Mr. Shudipto Ghosh, who is the head of PwC's data and analytics practice. Yes, but this will be the last question, maybe.
My name is Parumita, And before I ask the question, I want to say one thing to Rohan, that when I was doing my courses, I thought that deep learning is, more challenging or something. So we may be getting better results when you are doing deep learning models. But in reality, sometimes we see that simple models give better result than deep learning models. And one way to identify that which model to choose.
Questions for the panel.
Yeah. Okay. So question is that sometimes what happens that we build a model. So my question is to Professor Pal actually. So sometimes we build a model and we get say 95% accuracy, and there are some cases where the results are not correct. Obviously this is a probabilistic model. The 100% outcomes won't be correct, and for those cases the model gets rejected by the clients, or they expect something more. Like you said, that they think that it's a magic box and whatever I think the model will give it. So how to handle this type of situations? Because I've seen, like I work in this field from last few years, that some very good model get trashed because what we give and what they expect, there's a gap between it. So how to handle such situations and how to save these models actually?
That means I am not able to handle, but I'll say my opinion, and in most cases the customers will be dissatisfied, right? If I see a simple solution, I'll go for it. The same thing will happen in academics also. I have a problem, I know this simple solution can solve the problem, one is going to publish the paper.
Wonderful session for all of you and really taking all the questions. Thanks to all you all also for being here and asking questions. And Shudipto, thanks very much.